Jalen and Jacoby, man. They gave these dudes a show.
He is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
Boss up and get the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, I can smell it. I can feel it. The weather is changing. The NBA season will soon be upon us, and I'm so excited to see what happens with the Brooklyn Nets. We heard that Kevin Durant would play for the Nets if they fired the head coach Steve Nash and got rid of the general manager Sean Marks. Well, guess what? Kevin Durant, Sean Marks, and Steve Nash are still with the team, and here's what the latter had to say about that.
We're fine. We're good. Ever since we talked, it's been like nothing's changed. So I have a long history with Kevin, and I love the guy. Families have issues. We had a moment, and it's behind us.
We had a moment. It's behind us. What do you think, Jalen?
First off, we need to start putting some respect on Steve Nash's name. Two-time MVP, great soccer player, great tennis game too, by the way, Jacoby. Terrific athlete. Has a long relationship with KD, as he mentioned, that dates back to the days where they were both in Golden State together. So Steve Nash was basically hand-chosen by his former teammate, our former teammate, Sean Marks, who's done a terrific job as a general manager, getting KD, Kyrie, Harden, now Ben Simmons to play in Brooklyn. So now when the team gets swept and KD's unhappy, you're not going to move him. So that becomes a fork in the road. Management sides with Marks and Nash basically by saying, A, we're not firing them, and B, we're not trading you.
Yep.
And so, like Steve said, once we talked, everything was good. Because before that, it wasn't nothing to talk about. We got swept. He said he wanted to get traded. It wasn't nothing to talk about. But now that we know everybody's coming back, I think those repairs will happen. And again, like I told you yesterday, the Nets are already in the conference finals. KD's going to be on a mission this year. So is Kyrie. And so Steve Nash is going to make sure that he's around to see this thing through.
Kevin Durant told us yesterday, basically what he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he was like, I wouldn't trade me either. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, of course, you can make these claims. There are reports that Kevin Durant said, yeah, you need to fire Steve Nash if you go and play on the team. You can say that. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. And now they're all on the same team. And as you mentioned, this roster is fantastic. Joe Harris comes back. Seth Curry, and then they signed Claxton. They brought in some very new pieces. One of those pieces is Markeith Morris, who had this to say about the situation.
Break up with a girlfriend, you get back with her. Same. You have your differences until you figure it out. Yeah.
Does it work?
Yeah, I mean, broke up with my wife a couple times. We still married.
I'm sure his wife is not happy about that, but what do you think about his analogy there?
He wasn't saying anything personal. Any relationship is going to deal with turbulence. That could be with your mate, your siblings, your kids, your coworkers, your teammates, your organization. So he wasn't giving away any trade secrets or pillow talk there. But the reality is true. Last season is behind them. And let me tell you one major reason why. The vaccine mandate has been lifted. So now Kyrie Irving is going to be eligible to play in home games. So therefore, those 27, 28 points that he was scoring half the time last year, he's going to be scoring all of the time this season.
Absolutely. And like one thing that was important what Steve Nash said, he's like, we talked. We worked it out. Since we've talked, things are okay. There was some drama between DeAndre Ayton and the Suns this offseason. That was settled with a signing, but you'd assume him and his head coach talked this offseason. Guess what? They did not. Here's DeAndre.
How have you and Monty kind of been able to move on?
You haven't spoken? I haven't spoken at all. Ever since the game. So not even a.
You hoping that changes eventually soon?
I'm here. You happy to see your game? Yeah, I'm all right.
Here's my question for you. Take us behind the curtain for those of us that did not play 13 years in the NBA. Is this normal? Do you really not talk to your head coach during the entire offseason? From you losing Game 7 in the conference semis to media day preseason, they did not text, they did not talk. That is odd to me. Is that odd in general terms?
So let me rewind the tape from the previous discussion. Didn't I tell you that when the Nets got swept and when KD asked to be traded and Nash be fired and Sean Marks to get fired, there was nothing to talk about? There's nothing to talk about. Like, we were the most disappointing team in the playoffs. We just covered the two most disappointing teams in last year's playoffs. The Nets and the Suns. So when you get bounced like the Suns get bounced, ain't nothing to talk about, fam. Now, let me give you a teaching moment, though. This is for DeAndre Ayton. And if you watch me on Countdown, and if you watch me on Jalen and Jacoby, you clearly know that I have a pulse on what's happening with the Suns over these last couple of years. Yep. Even when I'm saying it way too early. So just let me tell you this. Here's how this actually works. This is on the player to seek out his head coach, especially after you get your new deal. Mm-hmm. See, here's a mistake that young people make so many times. Like, you feel like you've done enough communicating, or you've reached out enough, or you've already shown that you're invested or your communication is there. No, this is something that evolves. That man is one of the best basketball minds in the NBA, one of the best coaches in the league, right? He's the reason that the Suns got turned around. Monty Williams is the reason. He's also the reason that they were able to bring in Chris Paul. He could have had the Lakers job and turned it down for this job, okay? So now he becomes the head coach. He leads you to the finals. And DeAndre Ayton plays as well as he's played in his entire career. Last year, and they lose to the Bucks. Now this year you lose and it's ugly. You end up on the bench, the numbers are bad, CP3's numbers are bad. Like the Suns went out in flames. But if you're Ayton, Jacoby, if y'all not talking before you sign the deal, once you sign the deal, you gotta pick up the phone.
That's what I'm saying.
You gotta be like, first off, first off, coach, thanks for helping me get paid. See what has happened so many times, and Pat Riley called this the disease of me. Like, and it's not even just in sports. It's like, as you help people ascend and you help influence them in different ways of their lives, at some point, sometimes they lose humility and who helped them get there. And even if y'all talking about congratulating you for getting your new deal, that's a reason to talk. The second thing to talk is, hey coach, how can I get better? What do I need to do to be on the floor at the end of the season? Because I ended up on the bench in foul trouble and my numbers was crazy. Like, that's on the player, Jacoby, to seek out the coach in that instance. I believe, based on training camp starting and now this report after Ayton talked about it is public, that they'll sit down and go eye to eye. But again, it's up to the player in this case, in particular when you sign your deal, to seek out your coach, seek out CP3, seek out Devin Booker. Where y'all working out at? How can I be down? Like that's what helps make the Phoenix Suns special, is because they operate like a college team in a lot of ways with the way that they embody team away from the floor. So I'm expecting a big turnaround season for the Suns, and I'm expecting a big-time season from DeAndre Ayton.
It is one of those things where it's like, whether it's on the player or the coach, when you sign a 4-year, $133 million deal, maybe you wanted a 5-year deal with more money, but you still are getting paid $133 million to play basketball. You and your coach should probably acknowledge that via a very quick text, which did not happen between them. But we moved from drama in Brooklyn to drama in Phoenix to drama in Los Angeles. We've all talked about Russell Westbrook this offseason, whether or not he should be traded, whether or not he will be traded, whether or not the Lakers want him to be on the team. Well, there was this exchange between him and Bill Plaschke that shed some light on that.
Yeah, Russ, you said you're buying into the Lakers. Do you think the Lakers are buying into you? Do you think the Lakers want you here?
I mean, whether that they want me here or not, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, my job is to be a professional.
I actually like this. He's like, you know what? None of that matters. My job is to play basketball, and I get paid handsomely to do it. There's no problem between us.
This is all about contracts. You want the contracts of your best players to be driving forces in your championship pursuit if you're the Lakers. And so now what's going to happen with Russ is fans and media are not going to appreciate last year's 18-7-7. Yes, he needs to work on his three-point shooting, and that probably won't change much. And yes, he needs to keep his turnovers down. But he's still a really productive veteran player and a future Hall of Famer. But now people are going to slander him in his name and game because of his salary. And what I believe will eventually take place, Jacoby, and Russ may not like this, and it ain't a diss. I think to maximize their roster the way it is, he will be best suited as a reserve because LeBron is ball dominant, AD's gonna be ball dominant. You bring in Patrick Beverly's a 39% three-point shooter as a lockdown defender, and you bring back Schroeder for speed. So for me, if you put Russ with the second unit, he could be ball dominant, flirting with his triple doubles, and still get a standing ovation when he get up off the bench.
Yep.
It'll be a mental manipulation for everybody involved. So I'm interested to see if that happens, and if so, when.
Well, I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow night between the Dolphins and the Bengals. Another big Thursday night game. Jalen Rose, we are just over 24 hours away from a great Thursday night football matchup between the Dolphins and the Bengals, and there's already some pettiness going back and forth. You know I love the pettiness. Let's listen to the Cheetah talk about one of his opponents.
I can't wait to go against Eli Apple, man. I owe you, boy. I owe you. I'm here. The Cheetah's here.
Well, Jesse Bates, the safety for the Bengals, responded, if somebody comes after Eli, he comes after all of us. I don't know if Eli got Tyreek Hill tickets to the Super Bowl last year or not. I think that's probably why he's a little upset. Jalen, I love the drama. I love the back and forth. I love this matchup. What do you think about this?
So Eli Apple, while becoming a young veteran in a lot of ways, it's been turbulent in different instances. And so with the Giants, when you're a high draft pick and you don't necessarily, quote unquote, meet the expectations, and then you end up a couple of teams later. And each time it seems like there are periods during the NFL season where he's trending for the wrong reasons. And a lot of the times it was because he was getting beat by the opponent's wide receivers. However, since he got to Cincinnati, he's been able to atone for a lot of things that happened earlier in his career, has played winning, contributing football, and was a part of a Bengals team that made the Super Bowl last year. So I give him credit for resurrecting his name and or his career. And therefore, he earned the right to talk his talk. Mm-hmm. And if he want to talk to Tyreek last year about getting them Super Bowl tickets, I ain't mad at that. But the beautiful thing about sports, we get to play each other again.
Gotta play.
You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of sports, and I can't wait to see it.
On Thursday. Jalen, you remember P.J. Tucker won a championship with the Bucks and then went to the Heat, and he's now with the Sixers, and James Harden went to the Nets and then got traded to the Sixers. Well, here is what P.J. Tucker had to say about their journey, and it's pretty interesting. He said, honestly, me and James were trying to come here the year before. Jalen, what do you think about this?
I think if you watch Jalen and Jacoby and Countdown, you already know that I've said, man, instead of trading James Harden for Ben Simmons, if James Harden just plays out the season with the Nets and opts out, he now joins the Sixers. They keep Simmons, and to P.J. Tucker's point, he's probably on the team also. We knew when Daryl Morey got the job with the 76ers from Houston, it was only a 3-2-1 where he was going to try to put together a lot of the players that he's familiar with. In particular, James Harden. So I'm not surprised by that. It worked out great these last couple of years for PJ because he's not only been a contributing veteran to winning, but also played meaningful roles, in particular in winning a championship with the Bucks and helping the Heat have some success also.
So, Jalen, we are big fans of the Ball family here at Jalen and Jacoby, and there's great news for the Balls yesterday when LiAngelo Ball signed with the Hornets. However, bad news for the Balls, Lonzo Ball is going to have a second surgery. You remember last year when Ball and Caruso went down, so did the Bulls in the standings. How big a deal is it that Lonzo is going to need a second surgery because he can't run or jump without pain in his knee?
Let's shout out the Ball parents, because for so many years it was speculated if 3 of their sons were going to be in the NBA. That's currently the case. That's currently the case. And along with the Holidays and a couple of other brother combinations, that is phenomenal to have 3 players in the NBA all at the same time. Now for Lonzo, it's an issue if he has a second surgery after already missing basically most of last season. And that just means that the Bulls won't get to their goals. I love that they re-signed Levine and what Vucevic can bring. And obviously, nobody stops DeMar DeRozan when he gets going. That's already 25 points. But they're going to need Lonzo Ball to go with Caruso in that backcourt, and to not have him, that's really going to hamper what they're trying to do going forward.
Jalen, you know that I really appreciate the defensive part of the game, and I appreciate playmaking and passing. And Lonzo Ball brings both of those to the table, and he developed a three-point shot. He was truly a great tool and a great NBA player. We wish him a speedy recovery after this second surgery, because there's 4 Ball brothers: Lonzo, LiAngelo, Melo, and Jalen Anthony Rose, who has been vying for adoption papers from LeVar Ball for years now. Dude, gave him like 3 pitches to hit the entire game. Look at these pitches, not even close. So, soft move or boss move, not wanting to be the one to give up 61.
So, those weren't like intentional walks. Like, a couple of those pitches were unhittable, high and away. But a couple of those were, you know,
he got a couple
near the strike zone.
He got a couple. I watched the game. He got a couple to hit.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's flirting with a triple crown. Like, he's really seeing the ball well. It is a soft move to walk him on purpose. But this ain't what we saw from, like, when Barry Bonds was chasing the home run record, and he was the best player in the game. So 4 walks, I'm not necessarily mad at it. Let's give him credit for having a good eye at the plate.
So my gut, my heart wants to say this is a soft move, but I actually think it's a boss move, because you know the pitchers in the clubhouse, before they take the field, look at each other and say, let's not be the one. Let's not be the one. And watching the game, he did get a few pitches to hit. They're like, we're not going to give it to you. This ain't batting practice. You got to earn it. So he had a couple of inside pitches in the strike zone, a couple of off-speed pitches that he could have hit. So he's going to have to earn it. But they've got about 7 or 8 more games, and I'm really rooting for him to get this, because you know what else I want, Jalen Rose? I want to see him get paid. I want to see him get paid.
No doubt. No question. Him and Lamar. Both of them, I want to see them get close to $1 billion as possible.
He said as close to $1 billion as possible. I'm just trying to save $1,000 in my checking account. We'll be back tomorrow, ESPN 2 at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you. You are far too kind.